Hi everyone, welcome to Play Hooky with me. My name is Roz. I hope everyone's doing great today. I thought it would be fun to create a compilation video for you with beginner-friendly flowers and leaves. What I love so much about this is that the stitches and techniques that you use for one easily translates into the other. Once you get the hang of the general concept, my hope is that it will inspire you to design your own leaves and flowers. As a bonus, I went ahead and did a little butterfly to just show you how you can take the basic ideas of a petal, flower petal, and make it into a butterfly. It's a lot of fun. Other than that, I wanted to let you know that I'm using Stylecraft Special DK yarn. This is just my comfort level. I really enjoy the weight of this. The equivalent to that would be a sport weight. I use a 3.75 millimeter hook. I think the recommended hook size is a 4 millimeter, but I like to go a little bit smaller normally. And just so you know, there are timestamps below in the description box so you can jump to the flower or leaf that you're interested in learning how to make. I think that's about it. Let's go ahead and play some hooky. Okay, so to get started, we're going to start with our baby leaf. This is actually two baby leaves together, and then we'll graduate to the two-sided leaf and then build from there with your bigger leaves, so you can see how easy it is just to build depending on what size you want your leaf to be. So for the baby leaves, I like to start with a chain 5. A tip here, the first 4 chains will be what your working stitches, okay, and then the 5th one is your turning. So depending on whatever size you want your leaf to be, always add 1 to take account for the turning stitch. So this is going to be just a simple baby, so that's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I skip that first chain, and now I'm going to do a single crochet to begin. And all I'm doing now is I'm just going to build, just think about the shape of a leaf, how it just starts to grow up. And I'm going to do a half double crochet. That's the next size up. Then I'm going to do a double crochet to make it a little bit bigger or wider. And then I have 1 chain left, and I am going to go all the way back down to a single crochet to close it up. And as you can see, we have a little baby leaf. And I like to take it a step further, and I like to find somewhere to just do a quick slip stitch to give it a little bit of a point. And there we go. So for this guy over here, I like to do 2 at a time sometimes to be a background for a flower. So I just repeat what I just did. I'm doing 5 chains. I skip the first chain on this row, and I go in with a single crochet, half double crochet, double, and then I like to go back down to a single crochet. I almost did a slip stitch. Let's stick to the plan, and we're done. And then I like to find somewhere to slip stitch, and there we go. We have our little baby leaf. Okay, so we did our baby leaf, and we are just going to continue on with the same sort of system and now give it 2 sides. For that baby leaf, I did a chain 5, but I think I'm going to show you just with an extra stitch, you can make your leaves a little bit bigger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm going to skip the first chain as always and go right into the second one with a single crochet, a half double crochet, a double crochet, Just building bigger. And let's go back down with a half double crochet. And then with our final stitch, we'll do the single crochet. Now normally here, if I was finished, I would slip stitch to give it a bit of a point, but I'm going to work on the other side now. So to get myself turned around, I'm going to do 2 more single crochets in the same area, in the same stitch. 1, 2. And now I'm going to resume what I did on the first side. And this is where, if you're building it as you go with your own stitch plan, I would just go ahead and write that down so you know what you did. I did a half double crochet here, so I will go into that same chain stitch with a half double crochet. Then it was a double. Okay, then another half double crochet, and then finally a single crochet. Let's see, I want to go in there. And now I will do a slip stitch into that chain to give it a nice point. There we go. And we have a lovely baby leaf. So now we're going to build up a little bit more, and we're going to do a big leaf. This one I'm going to give it 10 chains. That will give me 9 working stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to skip that first chain next to my hook, and I'm going to go into the next chain with a single crochet. And then I'm going to build up like I was before. Okay, so I'm going to do a half double crochet in the next chain stitch. Then I'm going to do a double. And remember, you can play with this and come up with your own system. Try it, just experiment with it. Okay, I'm going to do another DC since I have so many spaces. That'll give me a little bit of length on this. And now I'm going to do a treble crochet to give it some extra height. Let's yarn over twice. 3, okay. Now I'm going to go back down. I'm going to do 2 double crochets. 1, 2. Mine's coming out pretty lacy here. If I wanted to resolve that, I could just go down a hook size, but I don't mind. I like this. Okay, so I did my 2 double crochets. Now I'm going to go down even further and do a half double crochet, and now I'm in my final stitch, so I'm going to do a single crochet. Okay, so what I want to do now is work around, so I'm going to give myself 2 single crochets to make my turn. And now I'm going to repeat and mirror what I did on the other side. So I'm going to go into that same chain space, and I'm going to do my half double crochet. There we go. It was 2 double crochets. 1, 2. Then we did a treble. Okay, now we're going back down. Double crochet, and a half double crochet, nearly there, and a single to finish. And I like to do a slip stitch. We'll do it right in that chain there to give it a lovely point. There we go. Okay, so getting started on our flowers. This is a very basic 5 petal flower. You don't even work in more than one round. So you can either start with a slip ring or you can chain 4 for this one. 2, 3, 4. And I'm just going to slip into that. Okay, now at this point, you're going to be using treble crochets and single crochets. That's all we're doing for this petal. Okay, so let's go ahead and chain 1 just to get some wiggle room here. And that can count as our very first single crochet. Now we're going to do 3 treble crochets, 3 triple crochets, treble crochets. Okay. One. Remember, it's yarning over twice, going into your center, pulling through, and yarning over and pulling through 3 times. It's 2. And 3. And now we're going to just scooch it over a little bit here. You'll find that you'll be doing that quite a lot to make sure they all fit into your ring. And then I'm going to go straight back into the center and make a single crochet to finish that petal. And that's it. That's 1. We're going to do this 4 more times. I'll do 1 more and then I will meet you at the end. Let's chain 1 to get some height. This is our first treble crochet. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And now we are going to close it up with a single crochet and chain 1, and we'll see you on the other side. Okay, so I am at the end of my last petal. I have 1 treble crochet left to make, and we did it. Now normally following all the way around I would do a single crochet, but because I'm finished I'm going to do a slip stitch instead this time. Okay, and then what I would do, and I'll do this off camera, is I will snip this and then just make sure this is very tight. Here, I'll just show you. Okay. Okay, so I've snipped it. Make sure it's very tight. And then what I will do is I will just darn it in the back, and we should be good to go with that. This is a lovely flower for just simple embellishments. You could even place a little button in the center of it to give it a little bit of interest. But yeah, this is just a very simple, very effective little flower, and I really love this pattern. Okay, so now we're going to work on our next 5-petal flower. This time we're going to work in 2 rounds. Go ahead and do a slip ring, magic ring if you would prefer, or you can just chain 4 like I am. Slip stitch to secure this. Can you hear my dog Sadie? She's sleeping next to me. Okay, now we are going to do 5 single crochets into the ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now you have an option here if you want to do, since we're working in 2 rounds with this one, you can either slip stitch into this first chain and switch colors, or you can just slip stitch into this one like I am here and continue on with the same color. Let me make sure that I have the right amount of chains here. 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, I do. Okay. Now, if you did fasten off, go ahead and chain 2. That will act as your very first half double crochet. For us, we're just going to chain 1 to give us a little bit of wiggle room, and we are going to work into the next, or the chain stitch right next to where you just finished. And we are going to begin our first petal with a half double crochet. Let's see, we're going to do 3 double crochets now in the same stitch. One, 2, 3. Now at this point we're going to go back down, so we're going to do a half double crochet again in the same stitch. Okay, and then go ahead and do a slip stitch in the chain next to it. Okay, we've just completed our first petal. Chain 1, and let's do another petal, half double crochet in that same stitch that you just slip stitched into. 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. A half double crochet, still in the same stitch, and then a slip stitch into the next chain, and you're just going to continue this all the way around until you reach the end. Slip stitch, chain 1, and continue. I am doing my last half double crochet now. And then I am just going to slip stitch into the beginning of my first petal. Find somewhere that's a bit inconspicuous. There we go, that's a good space. Just made up a new word there. Okay, and then what I like to do is I just like to make sure I get that very tight. I clip it. I usually don't do an extra knot here because it can be very noticeable. So I just make sure I do this very tightly. Whoops, wrong way. Okay, so I've snipped it. I pull very tightly, and then I just go into the back and make sure to darn that very securely in the back. And there we go. We have a beautiful little 5-petal flower with 2 rounds, so you have the option to do a different colored center. Okay, let's go ahead and do a forget-me-not. I'm going to do a slip ring, magic ring to start this time because I want to have a nice tight center. So I'm going to do 5 single crochets now. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. And then at this point you can go ahead and slip stitch into that first chain that you see, or you can do an alternative to that. I do have a link to an alternative to the slip stitch that I will show you while I'm doing this, if you want to click on that and take a look. But what I like to do to get rid of that knot is I like to just make a chain of my own. So I'm going to go into that first chain there. Pull through. And then where I began, go into the back loop only and pull your yarn through. And you have made a very smooth chain space. I'm going to go ahead and darn that in, and I will see you on the other side. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the top of any chain space that I want. Fasten on in the way that you like best. I'm just going to do a very loose join for me. And I want to do, whoops, sorry about that. I want to do a chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Now you're going to do 2 double crochets and then chain 3 again, all in the same space. Okay, so we did our chain 3, double crochet, double crochet, chain 3, and now do a slip stitch into that same stitch space that you were working in to finish your petal. There we go, there's one. Now chain 1, slip stitch into the next chain space and repeat. So we'll do 3 chains, 2 double crochets, whoop, 1, 2, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, slip stitch it in the same space. Okay. Chain 1 and slip stitch into the next chain and continue all the way around like this. On the last petal I've done my chain 3, 2 double crochets, another chain 3, and now I am going to slip stitch into the same place that I just was, the same space for my petal, and I think I'm going to slip stitch again into the next flower. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, and then what I like to do is I just like to pull it very tightly, and then I will secure it in the back. I will just make sure I darn it in the back. Let me pull on my center again. This is my tip. I say this all the time. I learned this the hard way. Hold on to that center tail if you're doing a slip ring. Don't darn that in at the beginning. I've noticed that it still comes undone even if you do a very secure darning in. Okay, just hold on to that and you'll be happier. Okay, there we go. There's our little forget-me-not. Okay, now we're going to move on to our 6 petal flower. We're going to work in the same way that we've been working before. We're going to either start with a chain 4 or a slip ring, and I'm going to go ahead and do a slip ring. And now you want to work 12 single crochets into your ring or your chain 4 circle. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay, let me double check that. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Good. Now you can go ahead and just do a slip stitch, or you can do the alternative to the slip stitch for a more smooth join, but I'm just going to go ahead and go into that slip, first chain there and call it good. I'll go ahead and darn that in and see you for round 2. Okay, so go ahead and start in any chain stitch that you like and fasten on in the way you like best. So here we go, we'll do chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to do a 3 double crochet cluster. And how you do this is you're just doing double crochets, but you're not finishing them. So we're starting with 1 double crochet, doing only half of it. We did 1. Instead of yarning over and pulling through the 2 loops again, we'll just leave it there on the hook. Again, yarn over, go through, only do half of it. Don't finish your double crochet. Okay, and now we're going to do it one more time. We want to see 3 bars here, not counting the chain 3 we just did. Okay, so we have our 3 double crochets and we want to see 4 loops on our hook. That's when we know we're finished. Then we yarn over, pull through all of them, chain 3. Now you're going to move to the next chain stitch and do a slip stitch to secure your petal. Okay? Now don't worry about this little gap. Once you get a lot of these on your ring here, it'll all move together. Okay, so now we are going to chain 3 again. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to do our 3 double crochet clusters. Okay, but we're going to move into the next stitch again. So we're going to yarn over, only do half of it, yarn over, only half of your double crochet. See, we have our 2 double crochets here. We want to see 4 loops on our hook. That's when we know we're finished. Okay, so we have our 3 double crochets and we have 4 loops on the top on our hook. Now we yarn over and pull through all, and we chain 3. And then we go into the next stitch and we do a slip stitch to secure. Okay, so we've done 2 petals so far. Let's do it again. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to move into the next stitch and do our double crochet cluster. So we yarn over, behave as if we're going to do our double crochet, but we only do it halfway. Again, yarn over, pull through only once. We have our 2 double crochets. We want to see 1 more. Okay, so we have our 3 double crochets here, and then we have 4 loops on our hook. We know we're ready, so we yarn over, pull through all of it, and chain 3, slip stitch into the next chain space, and continue all the way around. And I'll see you on the other side. Okay, so I've worked around and I've done my 5 petals. I have 1 petal left and I have 2 chain spaces left. So I've done my chain 3, and now I'm going to do my 3 double crochet cluster. Two, 3. I've got my 3 double crochets and I have my 4 loops at the top. Now I'm going to chain 3 again and secure it with a slip stitch in the next chain space here. And we are all done. Now if you want to, you can go ahead and do another slip stitch in the base of your first petal. That's entirely up to you. I like to do that. And then what I will do is I will clip that, pull it very tightly, and darn that into the back. And there we have our 6 petal flower. Okay, let's move on to the butterfly now. This is a lot of fun because you're essentially doing the same technique that you were for your flower petals. You're now going to take those techniques and make a butterfly. So we're going to start with a magic circle, magic ring, slip ring, whatever you want to call it. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, go ahead and chain 3 or 4 and close it with a slip stitch. Let's chain 1 more here to make a chain 2. Go ahead and do a chain 2, and that will serve as your first half double crochet. Now we're going to do 7 half double crochets to make a total of 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. That was a chain 2 plus 7 half double crochets equaling 8. Tighten your slip ring, and now go ahead and do a slip stitch into that first. I skip those chains and I go into the first very visible top chain that I see. Okay, so that is round 1. We're not going to clip this, we're going to stay with the same color. Now we want to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Now within that same stitch, we're going right into this little stitch here right next to it. We're going to go ahead and do 4 treble crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now at this point, chain 3, and we're going to slip stitch into the chain next to where you were just working. There we go. And as always, once we build this, these will condense and it will not look so lacy. Okay, chain 2. Now we're going to move on to the smaller wing portion on the same side of the butterfly. and we're going to do 3 double crochets in the next stitch. Okay, 1, 2, and 3. Go ahead and chain 2 and slip stitch into the next chain space. Okay, so let's chain 2 again. 1, 2. Now we're going to start building the other side of your butterfly. We're going to do 3 double crochets in the next stitch. 1, 2, 3. Chain 2. Now slip stitch into the next space. Great. Now we're going to move on to our last portion of the butterfly wing. So we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And now we're going to do 4 treble crochets into the next stitch. 1, 2, 3, 1 more, okay, and now we're going to chain 3 and slip stitch into the final stitch there, and we are finished with our butterfly. To make the body, it's really simple. All you need to do is make a chain about the length of your butterfly here. Go ahead and start with a slip knot on your hook. Make sure you give yourself a decent tail. That you're going to use that to tie your body onto your butterfly. This butterfly is about 8 chains long. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh yeah, way more than enough chains there. I could have even done less. Now go ahead and just give yourself a nice loop. This is what you're going to use to actually tie or attach your body to your butterfly. And at this point, I just go ahead and clip. And just fit your body on the front. Go ahead and wrap, and then take the tail and feed it through the loop that you made. And then you can tighten your loop. And there we go. Now you just fiddle around until you have it about the tension that you want it to be. And then I take the 2 ends or tails and I tie them together a couple of times to make a nice knot. And that makes your head. And then to make the antennae, I just go ahead and clip. And there we go. We have a very, very sweet little butterfly. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a rose next. These are so simple and fun, and they work up very, very quickly. I think these are about 15 to 20 stitches long, And let's just compromise with that and do, I'd say let's do 18 for these. Here we go. Let's back up. I'm just going to chain 18. Make yourself a nice long tail for this. That's what you're going to use to join it together. And then 18 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. Okay, now we're going to work our way right back down, and we're going to skip that first chain next to the hook, and in that first or that next chain stitch we're going to do 2 single crochets, and we're going to do that in every chain on the way back down. 2 single crochets all the way back down, and I will see you on the other end. Okay, so I've completed my 2 single crochets in every chain stitch, and I want to fasten off now and give myself a nice long piece of yarn to work with. And now we just have fun wrapping it. And as you can see with the 2, the increase in each chain stitch, it naturally already started curling. So now you just have fun wrapping this, and you'll see each time you do it, it comes out a little bit differently. Actually, I forgot to, no, that's fine. Okay. Okay, and then all you do is you get your darning needle, and you are going to connect all those layers in the back, and this will really give each one of your roses a different personality depending on how you decide to stitch it. So just play with it a little bit. You can even just tighten it in some places, loosen it in others, and then on the back side just go ahead and start working into all the layers. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. You have 2 strands here, so you can really work on this. What I usually do is I do my first one just a little bit haphazardly. I'm not too concerned about how I'm doing this. And then when I get to a point, then I can start testing it to see what is loose. And then with my other strand, I can fine-tune it a little bit. You can also, if you're wanting to add it to a piece, you see how I kind of left a lot of the tail. You can do that too, and you can use that also to work into your, let's say, your piece if you wanted to attach it to something. Okay, so let's see. Doing pretty well here. And just continue to do this until you feel like your rose is nice and secure. I'm going to go straight deep into the middle there. And just so on and so on. And there you go. There's your little cute as a button rose. I just went ahead and continued to darn in my yarn tails until I felt like this was very secure, and then you can just attach it to some leaves or whatever you feel like doing with it. Okay, we are ready to do our daisy. Go ahead and chain 4 and slip stitch to form a ring, or you can do a magic circle slip ring. It's really up to you, whatever you feel more comfortable with. At this point, we're going to go ahead and do 12 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 11, and 12. Now go ahead and just tighten your ring, or if you've done the chain 4, go ahead and slip stitch into that first chain that you see, or you can do this to make it a smoother transition. Go ahead and clip, and you can make your own final chain here, and it'll give you a very smooth circle. So I go into that first chain, go through both loops on the left, and then just into the back loop on the right. And now we have a very smooth circle. I'm going to tighten my center a little bit, and we are ready for round 2. Okay, what we're going to do essentially is we're going to make a bunch of chains and connect them with slip stitches. I'm going to do a petal size of 10. So go ahead and fasten on, chain 10, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Move to your next chain space and make a slip stitch. This is a very forgiving pattern as well, since it's a daisy. If you wanted or didn't make your full 12, it's okay. It will still be pretty. Okay, and then we just move on. Chain 10 again. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Move into your next chain space and slip stitch. And we just keep doing this all the way around, and I will see you on the other side. Okay, so I've reached the end of my round, and I just continue doing the chain 10 with a slip stitch into the next stitch all the way around. I'm at the very final space here, and I am going to slip stitch in there and call it good. It's a bit fiddly. And then you know what? I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch into that first petal just to make sure that they come together nicely. And then I will clip, go through my loop there, and she is finished. And then of course I will darn that into the back. Let me tighten my center just a little bit. And there we go. We have a very sweet little daisy. I hope you enjoyed these tutorials. They were very fun to make. I do hope you'll experiment and play with this and come up with some of your own designs. And as always, happy hooking, and we will see you again very soon. Bye.